Hi guys, I'm going to attempt to explain what Bush is saying again, just for some extra clarification. Look at the star. The star is going to move to highlight Florida and the shark, which represents a submarine, at the same time. Now the star on this side, or the point of the star, is going to scroll all the way up the east coast while maintaining its light on the submarine or the shark. Now when it cuts to this view, we're shown the burning house around about here, the star's pointing. That will be around about where Massachusetts is, where the houses are exploding, and obviously that's a connection. The point of the star, as I said, goes from Florida all the way up to Maine. That's basically saying the entire east coast lined with submarines is what I think. Coming under Hurricane Florence, which moved incredibly slow. Once Hurricane Florence started moving inland, or during that process, I believe these submarines will be setting up position along the length of the east coast. I'm thinking multiple underwater explosions simultaneously is what they're going to use to create this tsunami wave. Now, something I forgot to point out at the same time. Now, this point here, just as it's starting to get light, I think this is telling us the date, the star, and the droplets on the board. The Penis missile clearly has the number 13 in it, 1 and 3, just there, and the letter F, which I think stands for Florence, because that's when Florence came in on the 13th. Now, 1, 2, 3 days after is the 16th, and I think that's when there's going to be a missile launch of some kind. I don't know who, North Korea, Russia, maybe someone else, Iran. It could be a missile test, or it could be an actual attack, or an actual attack. Well, apologies, but I think it may be an actual attack, possibly considering they've put it right up there. It's possibly an atmospheric detonation, an EMP, causing a blackout. Even widespread. We've already got blackouts going along the east coast at the moment. I think this is a more widespread blackout, the one that we've been talking about basically. But even more key is the fact that at this point the star is pointing just between the 14th and the 15th. If this is the 13th, that's the 14th, 15th, and 16th. So the star's right in between, closer to the 15th. So what that's saying to me is just before it reaches the 15th is when these sharks or these submarines that have lined themselves up along the east coast are going to produce that tsunami wave. And that would then be having us on the 15th with something connected to Donald Trump, possibly in association with the 25th Amendment and Paul Manafort, considering he's just switched. But obviously, if there's a massive tsunami on the East Coast, potential for other events like getting caught up in a tsunami could, wipe out the line of succession in that way. A couple of different theories to look for in that respect, but my feelings of something happening with Donald Trump by the 15th is really strong, and obviously that I believe is connected to why China moves into the North Korea, the DMZ zone, why the Middle East explodes into warfare with Israel attacking what would be the Temple Mount. Obviously that would be connected to the third temple being built later on. So then the 16th comes, and I think that is the possible direct attack on Florida. Again, representation of the F. So the F of Florence on the 13th, giving us the kind of dates after, and then again the F would represent possibly Florida on the 16th. In the meantime, on the 17th, as I've talked about, you've got the possible connection. We've got 1 and 7. I pointed out the 1s and 7s in the shark before, and the fact that from here going up and down, and the eye that goes across makes a pound coin symbol. That's the 17th. So England and possibly the Queen The reason I say the Queen is because one, Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. We've got QAnon, the Queen. I don't think QAnon is the Queen, but they're both Q references. We've clearly got the number 17 in this hangman here. Again, what I'm noticing now is that the head and the tongue that they've done just sticking outside of the head actually forms the letter Q. So again, 17 and Q. I think the 17th of September, something connected with the Queen is going to happen, and that will maybe something happens with the royal family, even something allows either Prince William or Prince Harry to take charge. Maybe Prince Charles at first, and then maybe he, you know, abdicates to Prince William or Prince Harry. We'll see. But there's also more information in here. I think you've also got the F, which has been pointed out before, and the F could be again connected to Hurricane Florence, and the 17 could be connected to Hurricane Florence as well at the same time, meaning 17 people died during Hurricane Florence or as a result of Hurricane Florence. We'll obviously see as the news picks up. They've obviously used 17 a lot this year in the news, so it's possible that it could be, again, 17 was connected to February the 14th event in terms of 17 kids dying, and it's possible that it could be connected to Hurricane Florence as well. Bearing that in mind, the line that goes across the mouth here, what I've done is I've followed the line across and then up and around, and realised that forms letter D, and contained in that is the X and the X, which is 20, and then the V, which is 5. And considering the news about Paul Manafort and the recent talk of the 25th Amendment, the D and the 25 makes me think of Donald Trump and the 25th Amendment possibly being invoked. Obviously, Donald Trump can challenge that, but I think then something happens to him in terms of, you know, a gun, a possible assassination, something happens in that respect. And then the tsunami comes. So there's a lot of things to watch out for, but I'm pretty, say, solely on the interpretation. Obviously, I'm not 100% that the event's going to happen, but from the interpretation, just before the 15th is when these submarines are going to create this tsunami wave along the east coast. The 15th is connected to Donald Trump, something happening there. The 16th, some sort of missile launch. The 17th with the Queen, or the royal family, the UK. Following on from that, we've got the 18th with Hurricane Helen. So that brings us all, I mean, it all seems to be pointing to the 15th for where things just kind of suddenly explode. And I do believe that's Donald Trump. Something happens there. And I'm just putting it out there because if something does happen just before the 15th, then it won't be long before the blackout happens and information won't be able to be shared. So that's why I'm kind of doing this maybe one more time and putting it out there. So if that all leads up to the 15th, then we've got another reference to 15 over here, 1 and 5. And then we've got the Kala lily. Now, just like with the chalkboard, it flows in terms of the narrative, because I've hypothesized that if this figure is the 8th character with the 2 above their head, and that's representing the 8th lunar month and the 2nd lunar day, which was September the 11th, then this was September the 12th, this was September the 13th. That's when Hurricane Florence came in, the F there, and you see how it kind of links to the 13th. Then we got the 14th. So that is today, but it's connected with an underwater explosion and a radiating tsunami resulting from that. And that could be just before the 15th, where we appear to have a connection to a death or a funeral or something. And again, a possible explosion of some kind. Again, that could come at the end of the 15th, just before the 16th. But it's the same kind of, it's the same storyline. The 14th, that's when they have the tsunami, but that's just before the 15th. So, and that could be a representation of the Donald. Oops, I wasn't finished. Then you've got the apple, and I've mentioned it rolls 7 times, and I think that's 7 days later. So if that's the 15th, 7 days later is the 22nd, and that is obviously, I think, connected to killer whale. Interpret it as the 12th. Nothing happened on the 12th apart from Hurricane Olivia going through. Maybe that was just a setup again in terms of putting more water into the volcano to kind of give it that excuse for why it explodes. Obviously, we've got activity at fish number 8 again. It went quiet, and now it's, you know, glowing again. A small cone growing inside. I mentioned that many times before, but just rehashing it again. So we have the 21-8, which represents Hawaii, the date it received statehood. We have the number 8, which this lotus flowers blooms out from, which I believe represents the eruption from fish number 8. We have the apple splitting in half and it being connected to a wave, which would obviously be the Helena slump, just where, as a representation, it would be a blood sacrifice in terms of slitting the goat's neck, as the Big Island looks like a goat's head. If you're not aware of that, you can go check it out. But we have this wave coming over, and as I said, this dual layer of meaning, because we've got the number 15 down here, but also the number 4 in there as well. And I've also connected the X to this tsunami wave to represent the number 13. But let's leave that aside and just say we've got number 4 in here as well as the X. So 14, and then you've got the X and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that goes across, and that's the 15. So, and then you've got obviously the representation of some sort of object, missile-like or submarine-like, coming up out of the wave. And I think that's saying on the 14th, just before the 15th, again repeating the same thing, this is when the submarines caused the tsunami on the east coast. 7 days later, on the west coast side, on the 22nd, we then have the eruption from killer whale. As I pointed out, Obama's nose has the volcano on it. This scratchy little part here is the tip of the volcano, and the flow coming downwards is the lava coming down. The dark eyes are the smoke or the ash that's coming out of the volcano. You can see how it kind of flows out that way and flows out that way. The eruption again flows that way and flows that way. So yeah, we have to consider, why did they give him dark eyes like this? Why did they give him an extra little marking above his eye, just before it gets to his eyebrow? He doesn't have a little mark on his nose in real life. So what is that? And it's only up to now that I kind of realized that's what it is. And it's possible that these highlights in his eyes are representing maybe what he's seeing going into the volcano, maybe a missile going in there. We'll see, or maybe we won't, because they shut off the camera, the live feed. But then we flow on to the 23rd, and we see the tsunami that's come. So if, for example, the Kilauea volcano erupts on the 22nd at 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be the 23rd on the west coast. So those two dates would be synonymous with each other, just time zone difference. So that's really all I wanted to point out, you guys. Today, obviously, it's not going to be very long before we find out if this theory is proved, whether it's a large storm surge or whether it's an actual tsunami. We'll find out. As I said, it's the 14th at the moment. We've got a couple of hours left until it reaches the 15th. According to the interpretation, it's just before it reaches the 15th that this tsunami comes on the east coast. I'm assuming that's east coast time. So where it's 9:09 over here in the, it would be 9 minutes past 4 in the afternoon over there on the east coast. So, you know, still got 8 hours to go before we can say that that interpretation is wrong. I hope it's wrong, but we've got so many different connections. Again, it could be a fooling thing, but it could be that August was the fooling thing, and now we're in the real thing, where we're seeing the flag being ripped up, blackouts happening, hurricanes moving in, problems with Donald Trump, like real problems, not just like rumors and stuff like that. This is Paul Manafort, his campaign manager, the one who stood by his side for so long. As I said, it gives Paul Manafort more credibility to what he says, because he has resisted the special counsel for so long. So even people that probably wouldn't believe if Paul Manafort just flipped straight away, they would more likely believe because he held on for so long and now he's flipping. So it maybe look like, oh, it's too much for him. Now he's got to tell us what he knows, and that could be connected with the allegations in the Steele dossier and the, shameful urination rumor about, yeah, I don't even want to go there because, I mean, even when you think about the video, think about the actual scene, the chalkboard here, they've done that the drops are above his head, which is what the Steele dossier rumor kind of has in it, that he was peed on. And, obviously it's a very vile topic to discuss. But if that's what comes to pass, then every little thing they have kind of put into this video to say, yeah, this is 2018. This is what's going to happen in 2018. And you better be ready for it. I think we've prepared as best we can. All we have to do is wait and see now. I keep saying wait and see, but when you can see things unfolding, I mean, it's not really waiting anymore, is it? It's just seeing. But I guess it's the tsunami that is the biggest thing that, that's the thing that would confirm that the interpretations were correct or are correct. If the tsunami does come just before the 15th from the East Coast, then it's much, much, much more likely that the other events are going to take place. So, with all that said, you guys, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.